It's inevitable at one point or another that we're going to need to go in and edit the lines that we've drawn in our animations. And this really speaks to the power of the stroke-based authoring engine that we have here inside of Blender, is that at any time, we can go in and move the points that are being used to create our lines for our drawings. Very different from a rasterized bitmap painting engine that you'd see in like Photoshop or Toon Boom or Krita. All great options, but our engine allows us to change the lines after we've drawn them, which is incredibly cool. So we want to be able to go in and edit these strokes at any time. There's some nuanced differences between the selection states in a new mode that gives us some extra power and flexibility in the shapes that we're going to be creating. To start off, let's just draw a circle real fast. I think it's probably most easily seen with a circle. There we go. And let's zoom in and take a look at the actual circle itself, because there's some really fun things in here that we can use. Excuse me, try to draw another circle. There's some really fun ideas in here that we need to be mindful of. Okay, so if we were to jump into edit mode, we're going to be able to see all the component pieces that are being used to create this circle. So Control Tab, underneath your cursor, let's just jump into edit mode real fast. In the default selection state, it's going to be the stroke or the curve selection state. So it's looking like this. Now at this level, it's pretty great. We can grab the curve, we can scale it, make it bigger or smaller with the S key. We get a lot of control. However, this is not the most detailed, granular approach that we can have when working with our curves. If we were to go into the vertex selection state while in edit mode, now we're going to be able to see all of the dots that are being used to comprise and create this line. Remember, at the core of this, we have a whole series of vertices, dots, if you will, and the computer is going to connect a line between these two dots. The more dots we have along our path, the finer and smoother the quality of that line is going to be. But at the core of this, it's just dots. I can grab a dot, I can move it down over here. I can do multiples. If I have more than one selected, I'm just going to drag out a selection box here. I can scale them. I can rotate them. We still get the exact same level of editability at the vertex level as we did at the stroke level. This is all well and good, but when we're editing verts, oftentimes we're just kind of making things angular, which is not really what I want. I want to be able to go in and squish this circle down into a whole series of different shapes. As animators, we're always looking for tools that will help us organically deform our shapes to help bring them to life. So this vertex editing mode is helpful at times, but really I'm looking for a better tool. And luckily for us here in Blender, there is. Pardon the dust for a moment while I hit the undo key a couple steps and get my circle back to its original shape. There we go. Now I'm going to return to my stroke selection state by hitting the number 2 key on my keyboard and ensure that this shape is selected. Okay, now check it out. We have a new mode, and I want you to be mindful of the differences between this mode. Check it out. It's in the upper left-hand corner of our screen, and it's called Curve Editing. This is pretty neat. It's a toggle. We turn it on or it's off. Okay, I'm going to turn it on, zoom out so you can see what it looks like. Make sure that your curve is selected before you toggle Curve Editing on. And then, whoop, look what happens. Now the curve is being evaluated and constructed using a different system. It's being constructed using what are called tangent handles. And if we zoom in and take a look at how all of this is working now, let's just look at this one up at the top. We have a whole series of wonderful new interface elements that will allow us to change how the shape is going to be constructed. Instead of working with the entire stroke or individual dots, now we're working with this tangent handle. I'm going to change my selection state from the curve selection state back to vert selection state by hitting the 1 key on my keyboard, which will allow me to select the individual verts that are being used to create this tangent handle. Now, what's cool about this is that we can grab individual components. Okay, the center one is going to control the entire handle, and I can grab it. You can move it around. You can see that we're organically changing the shape pretty wildly now. Excuse me, I apologize for the snap there. But now we can very quickly go in, and have a huge impact on the curvature of this line, which is incredibly exciting because now we can organically change the form without having to worry about all the zillion little verts that are being used to construct this shape. Now, these tangent handles work in a pretty interesting way. If we grab the center dot, you can see that the entirety of that handle, both arms of the paddle, if you will, come along for the ride, which is pretty cool. We can also grab individual points at the end of the handles themselves and change the angle, change the slope. We can grab them, change their slope. If we bring them together, we can have, maybe make a corner or a much sharper little curve in there. Pretty neat, okay? There's also some hidden power in these handles in that we can change their handle type. At the moment, notice that this paddle is staying entirely aligned. Everything is being moved together in one uniform straight line. Well, what if I wanted to create like a corner right here? Well, we can do that by changing the handle type. We've got to make sure that the center dot is selected first, and then hit the V key, V as in Victor, and you get this little popover underneath your cursor. And these are the 4 handle types that we have access to right here inside of Blender. Of course, the default one is automatic, but watch what happens when we choose vector. Boom. Now, the handles, if you look very carefully, the handle here, this handle is pointing at the previous control point in the system itself. It's being aligned perfectly, boom, right down over there. Same with this one. This handle here, this handle here is pointing at the next curve on the line right there. Now, what's neat about this is that we're able to freely, independently move these handles around however we want. So we can completely organically change the shape and create some wonderful hard corners in there, which I really enjoy. You can also tighten everything up by bringing the verts a little bit closer into the handle itself. So we just have a lot of customization. Let's do it one more time. I'm going to hit the V key with that center point selected. And now I'm going to go back to aligned, which is going to get us back into that single paddle, if you will. So now as a straight line, they move together as a group, which is pretty neat. So we always have the ability to change the handle type. It's never set in stone. We have that functionality built into the system. If I hit the V key once again, free and vector are very similar to each other. The only big difference is that when we change the free, it doesn't actually pop the handles down. It doesn't automatically align that vert to look and point at that vert over there, but we're still able to go in and change the orientation, the slope, and the weight of these handles at any time, which is pretty cool. So we like curve editing mode. It's a fantastic tool for us. We can very quickly go in and change the shape in some pretty interesting and unique ways. I like working with it very much. However, I want you to be mindful that this is a mode. I'm going to zoom out for a second here. And I want you to be very careful because this is a mode. It is on at the moment, and it's going to stay on until we turn it off for this particular shape. FYI, inside of this pull-down menu, these are just some quality settings that will adjust how the curve handles are being created. More on that in a minute. I want you to see here real fast that while the curve editing mode is on, we get access to all of these tangent handles. If I was to turn it off, and let me just make a really big change here real fast, something like that. I'm going to go back to, there we go. That's a really gigantic change to this thing. Something like that. There we go. And I want you to be mindful of how our curve is going to be rebuilt when I turn it off. This is a good reason to keep it on as long as you can. Because the moment I turn curve editing off, and also please note, I'm in the vertex selection state for my edit mode. If I turn curve editing off, the computer is going to rebuild that curve with all the verts that it thinks it needs to reconstitute and maintain the curvature of this new shape. And now we have a lot of verts. Now, this isn't the end of the world. More verts is not necessarily poor or a bad way of working. It's just something you got to be mindful of, is that once we turn it off, we're not going to get those tangent handles back. We could always turn it back on again. I'm going to hit the A key to select all the verts inside of my scene. We can always turn curve editing back on, but we may not get the tangent handles back in their original location. I've seen some really wonkiness sometimes. Sometimes I'll add it, or I'll go into curve editing mode, and then I'll start working, and then I'll turn curve editing off, work with my curve again, and then I turn it back on, and my handles are in different positions because it's taking the current state of the curve to determine where these handles are going to go. So here's my suggestion: leave it on as long as you can. That way you have a really great, consistent workflow. At times, what you're going to need is maybe a handle in between these 2 points. And we can do so real easily by subdividing the curve. Now, what we're going to do here is I'm going to grab that point down there, this one, and I'm also going to grab this point right in here. I want to have another handle right here in the middle, and luckily we can do that real easily by going into the stroke pull-down menu at the top of the screen, and the option that we're going to choose, subdivide, and that's going to put a point in between the 2 selected verts. This is a first-class citizen inside of our world. Now we can move this around, excuse me. We can move this around, have fun with it, and we're on our way. So we select 2 points, go to the top of the screen where it says stroke, and subdivide, and we're on our way. Now, if you wanted to get rid of a curve handle, of course, you could always go in and ensure that we can delete things by hitting the global keyboard shortcut. It's the X key. So I got my vert selected here. I want to get rid of that inside of our curve. Hit the X key, and we're going to choose points. Let me zoom out a little bit so you guys can see it. X key, and we're going to choose points. Now that was interesting, wasn't it? Because when we delete the points, we're actually permanently removing it from the stroke itself, which is kind of a problem for us. I wanted to remove it, but keep the connection between that point and that point. So there's one addition, one small modification to this process that we're going to look at. Apologies. So this time, when we hit the X key, we're not going to delete the point. We're going to dissolve the point. And the difference between them is that when you choose the dissolve action, it's going to keep the curve and just delete the point like that. Cool, huh? So there is a big difference between deleting a point like that, okay, and dissolving a point like this. Cool, huh? I like that. So it's a great little trick when editing and working with our curves. We're going to need from time to time to dissolve points to get a different shape. We're going to need from time to time to add points. And we do that by subdividing, and then we can add one in. So these are some great helpful tricks and things to be mindful of when editing our strokes in Blender.